Members, we formed a quorum and it's also the appointed time and I called meeting to order. We have 2 agenda items. And may I remind members that the next meeting will be the last for this session, scheduled for the 14th of July at 10:45 on Monday. That will be our last for this session. We have got 2 items lined up, and that is the review of SWD's standardized care needs assessment mechanism for elderly services, as well as the proposed injection of further funding into the Partnership Fund for the Disadvantaged. The third item for this meeting is home care or enhanced home and community care services. This morning we have deputations mainly from service providers, and some service users would also like to meet with us. They just petitioned to us this morning, and we believe for 3 minutes for each speaker we may not be enough, and this morning we are meeting mainly the service providers or operators. So I suggest that we meet with the service users at the last meeting of this session. We extended for a little bit, and then that will be the last of our meeting for this session. All right, no objection? Okay. I think the next meeting should be extended by at least half an hour first. Okay. If there's no objection, we go into our agenda proper. The first is progress of the Family Council. Please invite the administration to join us now.
見到。細個工會報告，咁就呢份俾你，另外有2份咧就傳閱俾呢位議員，咁我俾咗阿柱哥睇完咧，再傳俾佢。柱哥傳俾大家，傳俾大家。應該係阿石教授做嗰個簡介嘅。好啊好啊，好啊好。政府而家嘅政府咧就壓咗入去，都傳俾睇，傳俾睇，好嘛？係阿主席自己有呢2本可以。OK 好。早晨，教授。
Good morning, Professor. For this item, we have Ms. Gracie Fu, Deputy Secretary for Home Affairs from the Home Affairs Bureau, Ms. Aubrey Fung, PAS from the same bureau, and Professor Daniel Sheck, Chairman of the Family Council. So will the administration walk us through the paper with about 5 minutes, and then members will get 4 minutes each for Q&As. Professor. Thank you, Chairman. Members, good morning. The Family Council was established in 2007, and it provides a cross-sector and cross-bureau platform for examining family-related policies and promoting a culture of loving families in the community. Families are the cornerstone of our society. Starting from the 1st of April 2013, all policies have to go through a mandatory assessment of family implications. We also encourage bureaus and departments to consult the Council on new policies that may have family implications. The Council was reconstituted in April 2013 and was appointed the first non-official member of the Council. We have achieved progress since our reconstitution. We've been advising bureaus and departments on application of family perspectives to the family policy-making policies, and we also advocate important family values, and we also conduct research to promote better understanding on matters related to family. First, all policy bureaus must consult or must conduct assessment using the 3 sets of core family values, namely love and care, respect and responsibilities, and communication and harmony, to see whether any new policy will have family implications. This is now a part of the government policy formulating process. We encourage bureaus and departments to consult the Council on policies that may have family implications. And departments and bureaus have been doing this in a proactive manner, and they have covered subjects such as policy, population policy, legislative proposal on paternity leave, policy study on standard working hours, youth hostel scheme, preparation of statutory town plans, community-based drug testing, long-term housing strategy, and regulatory control over internet computer services centers, etc. The Council will continue to ensure that due weight is given to family perspectives in the policy formulation process. Well, based on our operational experience gained, we will review the effectiveness of the assessment framework with reference to the experience and development in other countries. In August, we're going to meet to review our work in the past year. And we also advocate important family values. In 2014, we organized a series of activities to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the International Year of the Family, and we're also going to organize the award presentation for Caring or Family Employers Award Scheme. We held a family summit on the 15th of May with a very good turnout. It was meant to put together a platform for discussion of family-related issues. We've also produced first aid envelopes to promote the family summit, and we wanted to give each member a set, but because of the overwhelming response, we sold out already. We've also commissioned tertiary institutions and research institutions to carry out researches and surveys. In 2014, we've completed the study on the phenomenon of divorce in Hong Kong and also the 2013 family survey. We believe the studies have given us useful information, and we have invited the relevant bureaus and departments to consider the findings and formulate response actions. So in the past year, we have been providing a cross-bureau and cross-sector platform in examining family-related issues, and we'll continue to focus on our work in the coming year. I pause here, Chairman, and I welcome questions from members. Thank you. Thank you, Professor. So 4 minutes each, starting from Dr. Ka-piu. Chairman, I thank the chairman of Professor Shek, and also the team. Now, with due respect, we hoped that the Family Council would comment on major issues of society. We know that poverty is very close to our heart. Hong Kong is an affluent society, but poverty is such a big problem in Hong Kong. We're not talking about individuals. There are numerous poor families suffering in Hong Kong. While we review the statutory minimum wage, we hoped that the administration and the business sector would raise the SMW. When we discuss standard working hours, we hope that we can use family perspectives. Consider if parents have to work for more than a dozen hours a day, what family values do you have? I am afraid I fail to see the role of the council. Of course, we see that you've been window dressing, and you can only live within the budget given to you by the government. In different groups in community, now we are concerned about children. We have many issues related to children, and they have everything to do. Some of them are independent of families, and we want to set up a children's council. We have many poor children in Hong Kong, and the deterrent measures used by the administration haven't been too useful, and our education system is also not working well. I fail to see how children can move up the social ladder and be out of poverty in the future. So elimination of poverty, SMW, raising SMW and setting standard working hours. What has the Council done so far? Shouldn't the administration conduct a full review, do not just hide issues? So for children that need to be taken care of independently, they should be given an independent status in our advisory structure and within the government. Thank you. Anyone from the administration? Should it be Ms. Fu or Professor Shek? Well, I can say a few words first before Grace supplement. On poverty, I have two points in response. When the Family Council was reconstituted, I did discuss with the CS, because we have the Poverty Commission here. We don't want to overlap with that commission. So the Family Council will consider issues related to poverty, but we do want to have a division of labor with that commission. And under the Family Commission, or under our council, we have a working group to support poor families. As regards children, well, the Family Council has the responsibility to consider the needs of different age groups. The United Nations have said that the Family Council should be responsible for the issues of poor children.
In the recent meeting, we talked about preschool children, especially those with learning difficulties or autism. We are 5,000 or 6,000 places short of the required amount of service places, and many of these children have went to kindergartens, and we have also written to the the Chief Secretary. Can we continue with the questions first? Mr. Tang Ka-piu. Thank you, Chairman. I agree that the issue mentioned is very important. It all depends on how much importance the administration attaches to the issue. I understand that the Family Council has a long history, and it has different stakeholders from different sectors of the society. I'm sure you know that there are a lot of recent family-related incidents, and we feel very sad about it. What do you think about it? I noticed that the Family Council said that family issues are becoming very serious in Hong Kong, and especially divorce rates in Hong Kong. And how do you see this issue of divorce? What kind of recommendations do you have, Professor Shek? We would positively address a lot of the family issues in Hong Kong. As the chairman of the Family Council, we would certainly keep abreast of developments in the society, especially including issues like preschool children. In terms of urgency, or we have to look at the figures. According to our recent survey, the picture is not as gloomy as we thought. As I've already mentioned before, 4/5 of the families are in good shape in Hong Kong, and the remaining 1/5 are in some kind of trouble. We have a subcommittee under the Family Council supporting such issues. And I agree with Mr. Tang on the recent family-related incidents or tragedies. These are incidents we have to address and look at. We will work with the government to see how we can address these issues. Are there any patterns between these incidents? Yes, we would certainly look into them. Some of them are related to poverty. Some of them are related to incomplete families, for example, divorced families or single-parent families. For single families, we are looking at whether we can do more. And this is something we have been discussing with the government. What are the causes? Single families arising from divorces. Are there other phenomenon? We talked about the number of working hours during the last meeting, and we have another work group to tackle the issue of family education. The most effective solution is to educate the parents. I would encourage the members to visit our family-friendly website, and the hit rate is very high. And it contains information on how parents can educate their children. As the chairman said, you have given your views on the standard working hours. In August 2013, we had, I understand that you had a discussion during the meeting. The 5 points you mentioned were mostly related to the economy, impacts on labor, standard working hours, etc. So I just have one question. What is the Family Council's take on legislation for standard working hours? Because it has a big impacts on families and their lives. Does the Family Council have any suggestion or recommendation? In paragraph 14 of the paper, it talked about the 2013 family survey, and the results show that 64% of the parent respondents found the stress of raising their children overwhelming. And at the same time, 45% of the respondents found it difficult to balance family and work. And looking at the survey conducted in 2011, the figures have increased. And the 2011 figure was 62%, and 45% found it hard to balance family and work. So why did the figures increase? And what was the purpose of conducting the study, and what recommendations do you have to alleviate these problems? First, on legislation for standard working hours, we only had a very preliminary discussion, and the Family Council doesn't have a stance on this issue yet. And Dr. Leung was already working on the issue, and we will bring it back at an appropriate time. So I do recommend, I do think the Family Council should have its stance after we have, after our working group has come up with the proposals. We will continue our work on this front. And on family survey, many parents feel stressed at having to educate their children. And around 2/3 of the parents enjoy raising their children. Of course, these two things cannot offset each other. But we have had discussions with the Social Welfare Department and other departments on how we can enhance family education further, in particular dealing with the stress of raising their children. We have put in a lot of materials on our websites, and we didn't investigate the reasons for the increasing stress of family stress, but we can do it next time. And for slight increases in figures, we couldn't find out whether it's because of a sampling, a technical factor, or for other reasons. Next time we will we will find out more about the underlying reasons. The Family Council is under great pressure to deal with different family issues in Hong Kong. When we look at the recent tragedy in the housing estate in Sham Shui Po, the mother was suffering from depression, and she killed her own daughter, and she left her 9-year-old son behind, and such incidents make me very sad. When mothers face similar problems, how can we detect their difficulties as soon as possible and facilitate help? I think this is something the Family Council can consider in the future. In some housing estates, they are relatively open, and can we encourage more help and harmony among the neighborhood? This is something we can help promote in these estates. Someone mentioned the issue of divorce. The number of divorce decrees increased 10 times over the last 10 years. And how do we prevent broken families or family problems? Can we have more preventative measures in place? At the moment, a lot of NGOs are promoting activities to enhance family bonds, but they are rather unsystematic, and there is a lack of coordination in between the different NGOs. Would the Family Council, the DAB's proposal to set up a family fund to subsidize family-related events in the community, would you consider such proposal? Thank you very much, Mr. Tam. And on the depression issue of mothers, the mothers would be the issue has been addressed by the maternity clinics. And we would try to identify mothers who are suffering from depression, suffering from postpartum depression. We would work with the Secretariat on the issue of divorce. The situation right now is not the worst when we think about divorce. I fully understand the impacts of broken families on the society. The question we must ask is how much are Hong Kong people willing to do? In Singapore, they propose setting up a new bureau. And their proposal is that for any future divorce cases, they must be taken to a tribunal. So this is something Hong Kong can probably learn from. We will raise this idea next time we meet the Secretary. Mr. Peter Chung, Vice Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. And in the past, the Family Council has reported to the panel on welfare services. They are looking at very broad issues, and they have reported very superficial views. And this time, we see results for the 2 surveys. So this is quite encouraging. Although we would really love to see the full findings of the reports. And now we have some figures from the studies. Does the Family Council have any recommendations to the government, and which government bureaus or departments have you discussed with? I'm referring to the family survey and the divorce study, and I think you should look at families with both Hong Kong and China family members, and this has something to do with the policy. And in some cases, we understand that they have certain situations or problems, but we don't know what needs they have. And we are looking at a lot of problems like education of the children, the problem of residence. We see a lot of problems, but we don't understand how serious the problems are. This is something different government departments have to look at. So I hope the Family Council can do more on this front.
And the 4th issue is the policy. The Family Council would like to ensure that all policies would not have this situation of the family. The requirement of SWD to require adult children to sign a declaration to give up the duty to give up the responsibility of taking care of their elderly parents before the latter could apply for CSSA. When are you going to review this? Well, the work of the Family Council, well, we are feeling our way forward very carefully. In particular, is only shortly after our reconstitution. We want the administration to conduct a mandatory assessment of family implications before new policies are introduced. I think this is a very bold step. Australia is the first to require that, and Hong Kong is the second place in the world where all issues have to be put to the Family Council for discussion before introduction. Of course, this is not statutory, but this is a very good start for Hong Kong. We hope that gradually we can continue to improve this situation. And regarding cross-boundary marriages, I agree with you entirely. We commissioned Hong Kong U to conduct a study on the phenomenon of divorce in Hong Kong, and we believe that insufficient study has been done on this. And if you look at our family court, it hasn't got a full set of data yet. So we are discussing with the court, hoping that we can have more comprehensive statistics. I actually share your concern. Thank you. Dr. Fernando Zhang. Thank you, Professor Shank, for meeting with us. I have to declare interest. Mr. Sheck is my colleague. We serve in the same department in the PolyU of Hong Kong, although we have no overlapping of duties. And the Family Council has a very broad terms of reference. We have to remember that the council, when it was first set up, it was led by the CS. By the number two in the administration. Now the duty is passed to Professor Sheck. I remember the Family Council having a very high profile, and it should be an important body for consultation. It also has got the chairman from the Women's Commission, the Elderly Services Commission, and also the Children Council. So you can see that it has a lot of things to do. However, it now focuses on very ritualistic things. It talks about parenting, so and so forth. It is certainly not doing what its counterpart is doing in Australia. I think it is a far cry from what the Australian Council is doing. As Mr. Cheung said, we have a big problem with poor families in Hong Kong, and cross-boundary marriages is also a major headache for us. This is something we have to face up to squarely, and the consequences are very serious. I think our welfare policy is such that we want to split families. The requirement for adult children to forfeit their duty to take care of their elders, and the whole family has to be poor. Otherwise, before an elderly person can apply for CSSA. So that's the same for disabled persons. We have disabled persons who would like to be discharged from institutions. They want to stay with their family members who cannot afford to look after them financially unless they're willing to split up the whole family. And SMW, standard working hours, policies meant to help poor families. And we just heard that you have a division of labor, so you're not going to touch on these things. So I have the feeling that is a waste. Family Council, the Family Council is chaired by Professor Sheck, who is so experienced, and I want that there can be a voice to represent children in Hong Kong, and the government has used you as a shield. So how are you going to continue, Mr. Sheck, Professor Sheck? You are now the chairman of the Family Council, but what is the meaning? What is the significance of the council? First, I do not have any laureate here on my shoulder. What I want to say is, after the reconstitution of the council, we have done quite a lot in the past year. I promise you to consider the issues you just raised. Now, we are looking at new policies, but you quoted examples of existing policies. All right, in the coming year, I'm going to reconsider the SWD's requirement for adult children to give up their responsibility of their elderly parents, and I will. And if there are family-related issues that you think are urgent, please write to myself or my secretariat. It's just that last time there was a group of parents who wrote to us about the need of special education, and we were able to meet within 4 months to discuss that issue. I undertake to address any issue once I am made aware of it. Thank you. Mr. Albert Ho. Thank you, Chairman. As pointed out by colleagues, the Family Council has broad terms of reference. It used to be chaired by a high-profile member of the administration, and of course, Professor Shek is a well-respected scholar. He's now the chairman of the council, but we have the feeling that the council is just for window dressing, because you do not have any specific work objectives. You talk about promotion and being consulted on policies. I fail to see the kind of input and impact you can make on new policies. There are important policies that can affect families, labor, elderly services, alleviation of poverty, or you may say that there are dedicated commissions or advisory bodies responsible for that already. And you talked about divorce. Now, you know that the law on child custody cannot be introduced due to difference in views of the stakeholders concerned. And now the administration claims that very soon we can implement LRC's report on custody. But the other jurisdictions are changing their arrangements now. So, Professor Sheikh, you said that you are willing to accept issues and you can consider them directly. Now, I'd like to talk about child custody. Or child care. Of families with working parents. I think we have, there is a lot to improve. So, I think you should take up children's rights as well and attach more significance to that. The UN Convention on Children's Rights have raised a number of issues, but there is no one to follow up in this administration. Children are important members of a family. They are underage, and there is no one to speak up for them. So I hope that the Council can work more on this. Professor Shek, can you tell us your mode of operation? Now, if we have put to you specific issues, do you have, how are you going to deal with them? Do you have any work objectives or indicators? If you are able to achieve 1 or 2 important issues in a year, that will be good enough. That is better than for your work to be too embracing. Well, we have work that is ongoing, such as family education and support to families and our views on government policies. And when people write to us on important family issues, such as children with learning disabilities and their preschool needs, and these children are being kicked from one system to another, and we will address them immediately. Can you explain to us how you dealt with that? Will the Family Council discuss that? We asked Department of Health, EDB, and also the SWD to meet with us. We were not too happy with some of the responses, so after the meeting, we had another discussion, and I wrote to the CS subsequently, telling them our views and what we expected the administration to do. So that was how we dealt with that issue last time. We are awaiting CS response, and we will continue to pay attention to the needs of preschool kids with learning disabilities and whether they've been given enough support from the system. So according to Professor Shek, they can accept cases involving government policies. You're going to intervene, is that right? And are you going to make public the outcome of your intervention? Do you have any reports? I'll ask my secretariat to follow up. Are the minutes of meetings of the council open? Yes, they're already uploaded to the internet. All right. Dr. Helena Wong. Thank you, Chairman. I have to declare interest. I also teach in PolyU. Regarding the family council, I have my worries. Before its reconstitution, we're told that perhaps the Women's Commission will be subsumed into the council, and women's groups were so concerned, and subsequently that didn't happen. Looking at the paper, the part on the way forward, yes, you are going to focus on children-related issues. I do agree to that, but I hope you won't overlook the needs of women. While we have a Women's Commission in Hong Kong, you still have to take care of this problem. We've seen too many tragedies recently, including one in Wing Chang Estate, where we were all saddened by the news, and we even condemned the mother. How could a mom be cruel enough to kill her own daughter? But when we get to the inside story, perhaps the mother was also very isolated. Why was the father missing? Why was she asked to look after 2 kids, given that she was in a difficult financial situation as well? So I hope that the council would not spend the majority of its time on publicity education, on family education. Please don't use slogans and advertisements to tell people that families are important, which is something we all know. So you should not continue to ask people to take care of their elderly, to respect their parents, not to batter their kids. These are cliches that we know too well. This is very infrastructure which we know full well. We don't have enough support for families so that they can really live out such family values. So under your leadership, the Family Council is a cross-bureau platform. I hope that you can put together different bureaus and let them fully understand difficulties families are facing, and put together resources and consider these issues in policy formulating. Otherwise, it's useless for you to continue to say that it's good to have happy families, family harmony, so on and so forth. Is useless because people cannot really live up to such expectations because family members have to work with cross-boundary marriages. Women have to work; they cannot take care of their families.
The burden falls on the women in the families, and we don't have enough support for the women. So, Professor, can you shift your focus on, instead of focusing on the values, can you actually do something to help these families? We cannot ignore the principles or the values. As I mentioned, our Happy Family website said a lot about the values, and we have a hit rate of over 1 million hits per month. And a lot of parents have said our website is very useful. We have a lot of video clips with tips on how to deal with different family problems. Under the Family Council, we have a working group to support families. And I completely agree with you that we should do more to help disadvantaged families. This is completely out of the question. We are completely on the same page. We will certainly do more. This is the 20th year of the International Year of the Family, and there are several objectives in paragraph 8 of the paper. Alleviating family poverty, ensuring work-family balance, advancing social integration and intergenerational solidarity, with the focus on exploring family-oriented policies and strategies. So I'd like to have a little exchange with Professor Sheck. A lot of religious organizations publish notices to to defend family values, and they have started social movements to promote the value of a single father and a single mother in the family, and they have invited Professor Shek, and you have turned them down, which I think was the right thing to do. But you cannot dodge the problem forever. There are voices in the society promoting traditional or conventional family values. If the mainstream opinion is to promote one husband and one wife in the family, and I just want to say that the single families might not only lead to doesn't necessarily mean unhappy children. And I knew a transgender friend, and that person went on to live a very nice life. And on the level of the family council, is there anything you can do on these issues? When you look at the official paper, our definition of a family is in line with the Hong Kong law. So this is our basis. So personally speaking, we hope different choices and family formats should be respected. The Family Council hasn't discussed this issue yet, and I think it's time we talk about it. In Hong Kong, people are already talking about amendments to the current legislation on issues like transgender marriages. So I'd like to thank you for raising this issue. This is something the Family Council will not dodge. On the issue of divorce, the key is not to get married too easily or too casually. This is the best way to prevent marriages, to prevent divorces. But what if the unfortunate happens? Are you going to do anything? For example, provide consultation. So, Professor, what do you think? I agree that you cannot avoid the problem altogether. So we are offering mediation services for divorced couples. And as I mentioned, in Singapore, they propose asking couples who want to divorce to they have to attend a tribunal. This is what Canada is doing at the moment, and it's also practiced in certain states in U.S. So is this something that will be acceptable by the Hong Kong public? But that said, we should tackle the issue of divorce proactively, even though it's somewhat against traditional thinking. But we have to move with the times. We have to address different needs in the society. So it's my turn now. The Family Council sounds like a good idea, and it's very well packaged by the government. So this is something I want to tell Mr. Wu Chi-wai. And I think the professor wants to do something, but there are things that you cannot do. For example, Mr. Tam talked about the tragedy in Sham Shui Po. We had an incident. Ms. Kam from Tin Shui Wai. We had a meeting on family violence. But the problems have still not been solved, and there are a lot of gaps. I understand that we have to consult the government, but it's not really useful for issues like family violence. It has been discussed, but nothing happened afterwards. For example, for cases of family violence, they would do investigations. They would look into. They would look to help mothers suffering from postpartum depression. But after all these discussions, nothing happened. Professor, do you have the same feeling? If the government wants to take advantage of us or exploit us, I don't think they will be successful. As an academic, I have the expertise to tell. Going forward, the Family Council would hopefully have of their agenda prevention measures for postpartum depressions. And are there any gaps in our existing practice? Why do we have less cases of such depression in other countries? They have a very comprehensive network. They have motherly care, and they have visiting nurses. They have done a lot. I think we have to see whether the Hong Kong government have to step up their efforts. I don't think the government can exploit me or the Family Council. This is unnecessary. It doesn't help me. I understand that you want to do something, but I've been a legislator for 20 years or so, and I'm somewhat tired. And family care is based on women. They are the cornerstones of the families. But with the high number of working hours, they face all sorts of problems. And the government has launched so-called one-stop services for the elderly. And I used to be a district councillor. And for elderly who were hurt or injured, after they went home, no one was there to take care of them, and they passed away shortly afterwards. What's your view, Professor? If there's any deficiency or gap in the existing policy or practice, I think we have to be frank and discuss these issues openly. Why did we have this family-friendly Employees Award scheme this year? In the first edition of the scheme, we didn't have any SMEs, but we do have a lot of SMEs this year. And we're hoping to change Hong Kong's work culture bit by bit. We cannot replace, we cannot dodge the issue of standard working hours. We are just trying to take a multi-pronged approach. I hope you can really move the government with your dedication. I'm concerned that such reclaimed academics would be ignored by the government eventually. This is my main concern. No, the government cannot ever exploit me. I'm going to discuss with them on the issue of postpartum depression. On second round, Mr. Tang Ka-piu, you only have 1 minute since we are behind schedule. My apologies. On the issue of 1/5 of the families suffering from problems, I hope the family can identify trends in these families so that the public and the government would better understand the issues. Are these problems related to working hours or single families? How do we reduce the number of family problems in Hong Kong? I think we have to come up with such indicators before we can solve the problems. We can certainly conduct studies to educate the public. This issue, I think, is of great concern to the public. Mr. Frederick Fung, you have 4 minutes. I don't need such a lot. I don't need all 4 minutes. In paragraph 14 of the paper, the survey results were outlined in items F and G. These two items resonate with me. A lot of parent respondents are stressed from raising their children. Are there any government policies to help these parents? We only have we have some tax concessions only, but a lot of companies have a string of measures to help parents with children. How do we balance work-family? 64% of the parents were stressed of raising their children. I think you can provide more suggestions to the government. This survey was only announced recently. The results were only announced recently, and we have looked at it, and the Family Council will provide suggestions to the government. The government takes in a lot of comments, but in very oftentimes they would not take very good suggestions. Can you give the government some pressure to sort of force them to adopt your suggestions? I think we are not giving enough pressure to the government, and very often they have chosen to ignore the comments. Since last year, I've told the Secretariat that we would have a review within a year, and we are not going to just collect comments, but instead we will collect the views of the government and see what they will do. I haven't finished my question. We have another government official today, right? Yes, Ms. Gracie Fu. So what is the government's response? To what extent do you agree with the chairman's view, and how long would it take to persuade you? Chairman, we are very happy to be able to invite Professor Shek to head the Family Council. With his leadership, this is a very high-level, very high commission council. Along with the Commission of Youth, Women's Commission, and Commission on Elderly Care. And we have different bureaus today. Yes, I understand, so please don't repeat these points. We want to ensure that our views reach different departments and bureaus, and the two working groups would follow up with the recommendations of the Family Council to make sure that they are properly addressed.
So you ensure that their recommendations will really be implemented. Please put it on record. Yes, members asked how we can implement the recommendations on dealing with divorce. Now, the recommendations has got a digest or summary and is already included. All right, Mr. Yu Zhong, the last member. I'll draw a line after that because we have overrun by half an hour. And be prepared that we may have to end at around 1:30 today. All right, I'd like to ask how the Family Council see its own terms of reference, because paragraph 17 says that you can continue to focus in the following directions: A, to advise, to provide advice; B, to advocate; and C, to initiate research. So you're just like district councils. If you do this, you advise the government, and your advice may be heeded or not, and to advocate, the administration can choose to just turn a deaf ear to what you advocate, and initial research, the research findings can be just ignored. So are you satisfied with your terms of reference as outlined in paragraph 7? Do you want to have some real powers? Because without powers, you will just be a talk shop. You will can only conduct research and advocate, because KK Fong asked whether your recommendations will really be implemented. You may brush aside the issue by saying that you try your best, or bureaus and departments will try their best to see whether your recommendations can be implemented, but things may never change afterwards. We talked about working hours, how parents have more time to look after their kids and elderly family members, and we've also asked for carers allowance for a long time. I think they are just acceding to such requests in a notional manner. So I think we're different from the Family Council in Australia. You do not have any decision-making power. It will be a waste of time, because what you do is not going to change anything. So my question for the administration is, since that we have the Family Council here, can you give it actual decision-making powers, and to ensure that they have powers to implement their recommendations? Deputy Secretary, starting from April 2013, we've asked for a mandatory assessment of family implications for all policies. We hope that the Family Council can support all bureaus and departments in carrying out the assessment, and this will have profound implications. And on this matter, I hope Professor Sheck can also advise us. As pointed out by many scholars, Hong Kong is the second among the world to introduce this mandatory assessment of family implications for all policies. Australia is the first. We are going to assess the progress and also the effectiveness of such a move. Well, for matters such as alleviation of poverty, the Poverty Commission led by the CS is already addressing these issues, and the Poverty Commission will, in due course, report to members its work, and also various allowances granted under the Care and Inclusive Fund. All right, any more supplement? If you say that the Family Council is wasting its time and energy, I certainly don't want to do that. Members of the Family Council are all very committed, and we really want families in Hong Kong to thrive. Thank you. All right, we end this discussion item and move on. Second part. Setting up a new contract residential care home for the elderly with a daycare unit at the ancillary facilities block of Anderson Road, PRH Development, Hon Tang. I'm sure we have to extend our meeting for half an hour, so because we have overrun for more than 30 minutes. 4 or 5 members already raised their hands. Members. The administration, or perhaps 3 minutes for each member, 2 minutes for the administration. All right, thank you. Thank you. Yes, please be seated. We have Mrs. Eleanor Chen, PAS for Labour and Welfare, Ms. Cecilia Lee, Assistant Director of Social Welfare, and Mr. Kenneth Wu, CEO of SWD. So 2 minutes, please, for the brief introduction. Thank you. We hope that members can support our new project involving a contract RCHE at the ancillary facilities block of PRH Development at Anderson Road. There will be 100 place residential care home for the elderly and 20 places in the daycare unit. Our policy is to promote aging in place as the first place and institutional care as backup. Still, there will be need for residential care places. So our policy is to increase the supply of residential care places through contract RCHs. We have reported to the panel all along that we have earmarked new locations for constructing RCHs. Since 2001, we have approved projects for contracts for 24 RCHs and 22 already commissioned, providing over 1,600 new places. And there are 210 daycare unit places in these projects. So this time around, we talk about a PRH development at Anderson Road with 17,000 residential units and a housing population of over 48,000. So this is a very good location for building an RCH. From 2014 to 15 to 2016-17, there will be 7 new RCHs under planning. Please refer to Annex 2 for details. Annex 3 shows 11 sites earmarked for the construction of new RCHs in PRH developments, in private developments. There will be DCUs and DEs and RCHs in these areas. We hope to provide new RCHs places as soon as possible for the community. For this project, we need $65 million from the Lotteries Fund. In May, the Lotteries Fund Advisory Committee already endorsed this project. However, only the FS has the power to approve the allocation of funds from the LF. And usually when we have a project with recurring financial implications over $10 million per annum, we need the approval of the Finance Committee. And as a practice, we always consult the relevant panel first. Thank you. Because this is an FC item, all members of the Council have been invited. And may I remind you of our Declaration of Interest rules. Under ROP 83A, members may not move any motion or amendments or speak on any matter where they have direct or indirect financial interest unless they have declared the nature of the interest. So may I remind members that if you have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest in this matter, please disclose the nature of the interest before you speak on this item. So 3 minutes each. I've already got 4 names on my list. Mr. Pan Xiaoping, the first to go. Thank you. Of course, we support the provision of new places. In April, we discussed a site involving the Kwai Chung ex-police quarters. So it will also provide 100 place RCHE place and 20 daycare unit places. Well, the footprint is around the same, but for this project, it is $16 million more expensive because for the external works and also renovation, they're a few $1 million more expensive. I'd like to know the reasons for this, and also there are 11 sites earmarked for the construction of such premises. In Annex 3, we asked for a timetable. You promised to do so, but there is no time frame listed here. Will you give us supplementary information? Thank you. Mr. Wu, thank you. Regarding the construction cost, yes, this is 100 place contract RCHE and 20 place DCU. The net building area or floor area is roughly the same, but the construction cost will depend on the topography and we use the future GFA as the basis for calculation of cost. All such projects the cost will be calculated by the HD Housing Department to be vetted by our ASD. For Kwai Chung, the construction cost might be a little bit higher, but for the unit cost per square foot of GFA is roughly the same. So we believe the budget is acceptable. And what about the administrative cost charged by the HA? Because I have been looking at the footprint, and I think the breakdown of cost is very different. Well, the administrative cost charged to the HA, we'll talk about the on-cost, is about 15% HA on-cost. With increase in construction costs, the total amount will increase, but the percentage is still 15%, 12.5%. Mr. Yip, I thought I would be the third to go. I've been in this council for 2 years, and I remember seeing 6 to 7 such projects. Usually, we always approve these projects. We only want you to move faster. We have 29,000 people waiting in the waiting list. Well, from 2001 to 2016-17, only about 2,208 places will be provided, excluding the bought places, and also boosting capacity by existing institutions after renovation. 20,000 on the waiting list against 2,000 odd new places. Well, I understand that this is different from PRH. PRH, the turnover rate is very low, but for RCGs, the turnover rate may be a little bit shorter. So I'd like to know the average number of years or months spent by an elderly inmate in an RCHE after admission. Do you have enough places to meet the demand? And what about the turnover rate? Can you tell us the average turnover time?
In Annex 1, the waiting list of 29,000 elderly people, how many elderly people have passed away while they were still waiting? We've always asked for such figures, and you said maybe 5,000 to 6,000. And how many of these elderly people didn't even receive any daycare services in the community, and how many of them didn't even receive any community care services? I'll talk about the subvented home first. From a paper, through contract RCHEs, the number of new RCHEs was rather limited. This is something we must admit. But please understand that it takes time from between earmarking sites to actually building the new homes. So I'm not going to repeat how the other channels we're using to increase the number of places. We have always worked very hard on building more contracts RCHEs, and we have earmarked 11 sites for new residential homes. We only have 1,100 places. But our work doesn't stop here. We are going to earmark even more sites in the future. And the number and the list of sites is constantly being updated. And hopefully by the next time we meet, we will have even more new sites. Maybe the PA, maybe the assistant director can add more. I understand that members are concerned with the number of places in 2013. We mentioned that there would be 1586 nursing home places, and for care and attention or CNA places, we have 1,600 places. And in late 2013, the number of elderly people waiting for NH places, out of those number, about 700 were receiving daycare services, and about 40% or 2,000 elderly people were staying in private residential homes. And for RCHE users in 2013, a substantial percentage were using community care services, and around 24% were staying in private residential homes. So a substantial amount of elderly people were staying in either public or private residential homes. Next, Mr. Leung Chi-chung, please. Of course, we would support earmarking more sites for building new RCHEs. We will certainly support that. I have two questions. First, the choice of the sites. According to the existing list, we have a clinic, a school site, and the Anderson Road site on the slope. On the choice of sites, the air conditions and transportation arrangements don't seem very satisfactory. The elderly people might very likely seek help. And is the clinic adjacent to the site supposed to help the elderly people? Can you brief us more on this? And the other question is that the government is playing catch-up on providing more elderly care service places, and a large number of and they have worked very hard on building more RCHEs. But do you have the manpower to meet such needs? And you would delegate to NGOs or other people. So in terms of quality monitoring, do you have enough manpower to execute the monitoring? So can the government respond on this front? Mr. Wu, please. Thank you, Chairman. And I will talk about the choice of sites. On the choice of sites for RCHEs, the Buildings Department conducted assessments on traffic and air quality, so you need not be concerned. If the assessments weren't satisfactory, then we wouldn't go ahead with the projects. Is it easy for the elderly to go to hospitals from those sites? Mr. Wu. The sites earmarked is close to the Kuntong Union Hospital, the United Hospital, and I think there is enough support. Of course, we would agree with building more RCHEs and daycare centers, but the number is not enough. We have more than 2,900 elderly people on the waiting list, and even taking all the facilities into account, we have 26,000 places, and the government can never satisfy the entire waiting list. So the point is, how do we step up daycare centers and daycare support services? But we don't have enough resources allocated to the community. It's severely lacking. And for new housing estates, you would build an extra DCU or daycare center. This is a viable method, but you have to look for land. Why don't you build such facilities within the housing estates? And the daycare centers for the elderly don't have to be attached to residential homes. It can be built within housing estates. I've been involved in such work for many years, and just having a 20-place daycare unit is not viable from an economic point of view. This is too small. And you see many of these, many of the sites contain 20-place or 30-place DCUs. This is not very viable economically. Why can't you build daycare centers or DCUs within housing estates? There are a lot of space in housing estates. Why aren't you working with the housing authority? You are trying to look for new sites yourself, and most of the time it ends up in failure. You are looking at sites like Siu Lam. Those are prison designs, and the situation is not satisfactory. Why can't we do better? Can we use a different mindset and embed these service units inside housing estates? It used to be the case, but it's no longer. So I don't really understand. Ms. Lee, please. On daycare centers for the elderly, we have independent DEs. In 2014-15, we will have more than 220 places, and one of them will be located in Pop-on estates. We have 47 DE places, and we have another DE in Kwai Shing West. We have 60 places, and we will also have 60 places in Cheung Kwan O. So we are taking a multi-pronged approach, and for suitable RCHE sites, we would introduce DEs, small-scale DEs, and in the right housing estates, we would also introduce independent DEs, and we will have more places in those DEs. We have mentioned these suggestions in the past meetings. Vice Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. I understand Mr. Fernando Chang's view. That's the LWB must give pressure to the housing authority. And the HA stopped working on its looking at its housing estates. I think that the housing authority must change its mindset. It cannot stop building daycare facilities in the name of beautifying the housing estates. We must let the government know that this is a problem we must face, and we cannot just pay lip service. And 60% of the mix are subsidized, and 40% are private, are privatized. And why do we set this 60% mark? If we have 20 extra places, then it's very useful. I think the mix should be 80% to 20% instead of 60 to 40. According to your paper, the approval for the site will only be granted in 2018. I think after the sites are earmarked, construction work should be these contracts should be granted immediately, and construction should be underway as soon as possible. This is something we can certainly achieve, so we can shorten the lead time. Mrs. Alina Chan. The Vice Chairman mentioned collaborating with the Buildings Department. We will look into that. And on the ratio of subsidized against private residential care homes, we see a need for in the society for self-sustaining residential homes. We don't have the figures. So we have several tens of thousands of people waiting for residential homes. We should have more places for RCHEs. I understand your view. Having looked at the big picture of RCHEs, of residential homes, we have addressed the ratio of RCHEs, but overall speaking, going forward, we will have a proposal for elderly care services. We can include this item in our next meeting.
Well, there is not enough time for them to answer my question. Before this paper goes to the FC, please address my request. Instead of 60-40, it should be 80-20. That's the mix. And can you advance the contracting out of awarding the right to operate the RCHE before 2018? All right. The question of 2017-18, that is when the contract commences. Give the floor to Ms. Lee. Yes, I have to explain to you. Even when we came to this panel a year ago, we undertook to compress all contractual procedures. So we won't wait until it's not that we can complete the contract procedures when the site is handed to us or when it's ready for commissioning. We will compress the procedures. We will work as fast as possible. We do understand that the waiting list is long. And as for HD's site, now the three new centers I just mentioned are within HD premises, so I'm grateful to the department. We have always enjoyed good cooperation. In appropriate places in PRH estates, there is no policy that social welfare facilities cannot be provided. In Pok Hong Estate, Kwai Ching West, and Chang Kwan O, well, all these are PRH estates. We have independent DCUs. But all these are old housing estates. For new housing estates, I think there is such a policy. You go back and check. Yes, I think community civic organizations are arguing with the administration future development in NT North. Well, you ask HD whether there is such a policy that social welfare policies cannot be provided at grade. Dr. Zhang, 1 minute, please. The ratio between the number of subsidized and non-subsidized places. Now, if the government allows such a high percentage of non-subsidized places in these premises, you are actually helping the rich to have access to services earlier, whereas for the poor, elderly, they will wait until they pass away. Now, if you are on the 20,000 strong waiting list, you won't be able to get a place. Now, if you are wealthy enough, you go to the private premises. The occupancy rate is just 70%. So if you're poor, you apply for CSSA and stay in private homes. And if you're able to afford $10,000 or $20,000 per month, you can go to non-subsidized places. You may have to wait, but not so long. This policy will create a very stark service gap for the poor and the rich. All right. Deputy Secretary, when before I rejoined the council, I was really questioning this ratio of 6:4. I asked why the administration cannot readjust the mix. I took this up with Mr. Matthew Cheung, and he failed to give a response because with an aging population, we have to see how needy elderly persons can have access to better services. If you force them to use services in the private sector, it's not fair. And it is also the long-standing position of the FTU. You should address this mix as soon as possible. So let's join forces to pressurize the government. Please tell the Secretary that this matter has been dragged on for too long. Okay. Members, do you have any objection to this paper? Going to the FC. I think in principle we all support the paper, okay? So we support in principle, though we have a series of questions waiting for a reply from the administration. The mix of 80, 60, and also the procedures. Thank you. Please invite the administration for the next part and also deputations to come in. As we all know, the next item is on funding mode for enhanced home and community care services and matters relating to competitive bidding for such services. Now, while they are coming in, let me say this. The EHCCS, competitive bidding for such services. Now, this topic is mainly on operators, but users also have something to say, and this is about the service agreement in between operators and the government. And I said at the beginning of the meeting that we're going to address the concerns of users at our next meeting. And just now, there were a few tragedies, domestic tragedies, including the one in Sam Shui Po. And Mr. Tang Ka-piu also gave us a letter on how the police handle domestic violence. However, the police not handling this very well, and Mr. Tang Ka-piu has written a letter to ask us to deal with this matter. So before the 21st of July, can we have a special meeting? The whole city was shocked by the incident in Sam Shui Po, and I believe we have the responsibility to convene a meeting to discuss this. All right, on the 22nd of July, we will meet with the users of the EHCCS, and we have another special meeting on family support. Yes, the SWD as well as the Department of Health and also MCH's their role are also important. So the Department of Health and the Social Welfare Bureau or Department, as well as Dr. Koh's Bureau should come. Yes, we should also meet with deputations. In particular, I'm not very happy with the way the police handle domestic violence cases. So I'll discuss with the Secretary sooner or later. Mr. Choi, the Secretary, just reminded us that we will have the subcommittee on domestic violence coming into operation in the new legislative session, but that may be a bit too late. So before the 22nd of July, can we convene a special meeting? The earlier the better. If it is too late, it's meaningless. Okay, the earlier the better. So a meeting will be arranged on the earlier the better basis. Okay. PS. We're ready. All right. This morning we've invited the operators to come to give us their views, and on the 22nd of July we're going to invite users of the service to meet with us, and then we'll have a special meeting on family support covering the issues raised by Mr. Tang Ka-piu, how the police or how the administration is handling domestic violence cases. The meeting will be arranged the soonest possible, and we'll invite all relevant deputations to come as well. Mr. Tang Ka-piu, no, I am just indicating my wish to speak. Okay. Welcome. We have to deal with new issues. Let's just welcome deputations and also the PS, and also Mr. Lam Ka-tan, Deputy Director of Social Welfare, Ms. Cecilia Lee, Assistant Director of Social Welfare, Mrs. Alina Chen, PS for Labor and Welfare. PS, would you like to walk us through the paper? May I remind members that we have to we're going to extend our meeting until 1:30. So 3 minutes for you, administration, and 3 minutes for each deputation. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman and members. We have provided a paper to members on the funding mode for EHCCS, Enhanced Home and Community Care Services. It was first introduced in April 21 as a pioneer project and regularized in 2005. We invited NGOs to bid such services. And first, we introduced about 18 contracts, and subsequently there were another 2, and in total they provide about 2,000 places. All these contracts would expire in February 2015. And we've also got a separate pilot scheme on home care services for frail elders. In 2015, February, the pilot scheme would also be concluded. SWD believes that EHCCS and also the home care services for frail elders can be incorporated, and we have secured resources to add 1,500 new places to this 5,600 NHCCS places. Together there will be about 7,100 places, and we will invite NGOs to bid for the provision of such services. We want the tender to start as soon as possible, because we're under a very tight time frame, because by February next year all the contracts will be due for renewal, and we have started discussions with all the NGOs. And at the request of the chairman, in March we met with HKCSS and also the industry. We discussed a number of issues, and at the meeting we heard from NGOs that they would like to change the existing contract bidding arrangement to annual subvention under the lump sum grant. This involves a major change in policy, and we need time to explore that first. However, we have an urgent need to decide well before February next year as to how the new 1,500 EHCCS places, and the around 600 existing places should be offered. So we will continue our dialogue with the sector and on HKCSS on the allocation of these places. Thank you. Deputations, welcome to the meeting. 4 deputations are going to speak, and may I remind you that your speeches are not covered by the Electrical Powers and Privileges Ordinance, Cap 182, Cap 382. Your written submissions would not enjoy the immunity or privilege. I'm sure you know this well, and you know the gadgets well. We have this earpiece. All right. Without further ado, I will invite Ms. Crystal Zhang, Hong Kong Council of Social Service, to speak first. 3 minutes. Thank you. On behalf of the industry, I'd like to give you our views on the EHCCS. Since the PS has given us the background, we will not elaborate further. We've also submitted a written paper. There will be 1,500 new places provided in the new year. However, the government is planning to offer such places, to allocate such places in a competitive bidding manner. We are quite concerned about this. We want the administration to put this service under the lump sum grant scheme, so that the services will not be subject to competitive bidding again. Because if we are human-oriented, then such services should not go through a competitive bidding once every 3 years, and the services should not be time-limited, and our service targets are frail elders. And it takes time to build up a proper rapport with the users before we can provide continuous care. And the government would like to allow elderly to age in place, in the first place, with institutional backup. I think this is an important area.
And this can help elders, and they might not have to enter residential homes. And with the aging population, the services will be increasingly important. And we need to further develop these services. And the SWD has a very satisfactory monitoring mechanism, and the service providers have been satisfactory as well. And with the robust monitoring mechanism, there is no need to have a competitive bidding process. And changing a good operator would cause concerns and nuisance to elders and their carers. And professional services are based on stability and quality, and there should be continuity with the services. And any changes would cause inconvenience to the elders. A lot of these services are very involve close personal care, and a lot of trust, privacy, and close body contacts are involved. And this is especially important to elders suffering from dementia, and changing the operator might cause pressure to its families and carers. And competitive bidding would not contribute to cost effectiveness and service quality. And we hope that these services would be incorporated in the recurrent expenditures. And the Evangelical Lutheran Church Social Service Hong Kong, Ms. Susan Chan. And the government has started work since we have started work since 2001, and we are happy to be able to help. But our feeling is that we don't have enough elderly homes, and 1/4 of the elders have passed away while waiting for a place. And so aging at home is an important direction of the government. But the provision of service is not very stable, and it's competitive bidding has to be underway every 3 years, and no matter how good our services are, we cannot provide continual services, and this spells uncertainty to a lot of elders and almost 1,000 practitioners in Hong Kong. And this, for certain services, we should be able to continue after, as long as the service quality is satisfactory. And so some people have to undergo bidding, and some people don't, and the difference is very big. If I have to take part in a competitive bid every 3 years, we cannot do something very ongoing, and we have to spend a lot of time and effort satisfying the bidding mechanism. So there is no continuity in our development and the development of many organizations. So we cannot focus our efforts on helping the elders. So what's the point of bidding? If the purpose is to lower the average operating costs or increasing overall service quality, then I would be supportive. But we are looking at a fixed cost bidding, and no matter which provider wins the bid, the government has to pay the same amounts. And for an organization like us, who has been providing quality services, and if you are to bring concern to 5,600 elders and almost 1,000 service practitioners, what is the point of the entire exercise? The permanent secretary said there is urgency in the service providers. As an NGO, we are very happy to help. If we are required to execute the lump sum grants, we are very happy to grant. We're very happy to help. Whether it's a 1-year or 2-year extension, we are very happy to help the government to in this transitional period to execute the lump sum grants, and satisfactory service providers should be able to continue offering services to others. Caritas Hong Kong, Mr. Leung Chan-Kyun, Social Work Supervisor. The trade surely agrees with people-based social care services, and by the people we refer to the elders as well as their carers at home. The point is the services must be accepted by the elders, and this hinges on the professionalism and integrity of the service providers. The trust is very important, because elders won't allow complete strangers to provide very personal services. They would only trust their friends. And if we are to change the bidding mechanism, the service providers must also be changed. According to figures in 2005, a lot of service providers were changed, and more than 700 elders were impacted. And then the elders might not be used to a new service provider, because they are used to seeing certain people wearing certain clothes or uniforms, and they were reluctant to face a new service provider, and it took half a year to build a new trust with a new provider. But in some cases, for some elders, they might not get used to the new provider at the end, and they might be reluctant to accept certain services, and they might turn to someone they already knew. And in terms of welfare, is it really necessary to bring about so many changes to the elders? I don't think so. I think the social welfare department and other departments have to think about this. Is the bidding mechanism necessary and appropriate for people-based services? And the social welfare department conducts a study every year, conducts random surveys, and in most of the times, the elders were satisfied with the service providers, and under such circumstances, is the bidding mechanism really necessary? Why do we have to change things when they are working properly? I'm sure many elders are looking for a stable long-term relationship, and the government is saying that they want to look at what elders think, but why are we troubling the elders when it is not necessary? We shouldn't have the bidding mechanism, and the EHCCS should be part of the government's recurrent program and funding, and you should not relocate the resources. Ms. Carmen Chang CI from the Haven of Hope Christian Service. She's the Operations General Manager, Residential Services for Elderly 2 and Community Rehab Service 2. Thank you, Chairman and members. I'd like to address the challenges we face because of the bidding mechanism. We have been in operation for more than 10 years, and our volunteers have made friends with a lot of elders, and their bonds are very strong. And for our volunteers, it's a big challenge. For our colleagues, it's a big challenge. And the elders might have a strong personality, and not all of them are willing to open their doors for strangers to provide services, especially home care services. It takes time to get to know the elders and build trust and friendship. And we also have to build connections with the family members of the elders. It's not easy. And having built the trust, it's only then we can provide very close, very personal services like taking showers or changing diapers or cleaning up wounds. And having built the trust, the operators have to face this bidding mechanism. And in such circumstances, service stability and continuity are compromised. And we have more than 10 home care service teams. We have about 1,000 colleagues. Of course, we would have natural loss of manpower. But we are talking about an overall dismissal of our teams under this new mechanism. Under the current practice of a review every 3 years, it's very difficult for institutions to develop their staff because they are unsure whether they will get a new contract next time. It's very difficult to retain talents, and a lot of them chose to leave. And it's very hard to recruit and retain staff because they would think about this question, and they might have to, I might have to start looking for a new job before the next 3-year review comes around. So the retention rate is rather low. And a lot of elders would inevitably compare the new provider with the old one. So service staff morale is rather low, and a lot of them would leave, and overall service quality is compromised. Members, we have 6 members who want to raise questions. And after the government's response, we would raise our questions. We have other deputations today. If you would like to speak, you can raise your hands. I think we still have ample time for discussions. Permanent Secretary. Why are you requiring a bidding process? Why don't you think from the elders' perspective? Thank you, Chairman. The allocation of social resources is not a new issue anymore. We have discussed this in front of LESCO Welfare Services Panel in 2013. The LC paper in question was 975 and 975/10 to 11, and we talked about the overall direction, and we proposed having this bidding mechanism in home care services. And as the papers have already mentioned, and these two approaches have their own pros and cons. If we adopt competitive bidding, we can ensure fairness, transparency, and every 3 years the service providers can look at their own operations and look to introduce new services. And the service providers can address the changing needs and make changes accordingly. And they have this flexibility. And apart from the existing service providers, we can introduce new providers in the bidding process to enhance overall service quality. So this is one advantage. And on the other hand, we also understand that the service providers have concerns. First, continuity, if they have to do a review every 3 years, and second, the workload, and third, what to do with the staff every 3 years. And some deputations said that the staff might feel insecure, and the retention rate is rather low. And third, the beneficiaries of the services, that is the elders. And facing a new service provider, we have to make provisions and arrangements for the elders to help them accommodate. We haven't faced such situations in the past, and since 2005, we granted contracts and we didn't have a bidding mechanism. And since 2005, those were the same service providers. And in the enhanced EHCCS, with the bidding exercise, we are hoping to look at the needs of service providers, and we can see what arrangements they can make. We can introduce more flexibility in the contracts. It doesn't have to be 3 years. There's still scope for discussion. For example, we can distinguish between bigger districts and smaller ones. If existing service providers cannot provide satisfactory services, we have to make sure that the transition is smooth. And from our past meetings with the trade, we understand their concerns, and they have told us their concerns during our last meeting. So I hope the trade can understand the pros and cons of the two approaches. And if we tackle the 7,000 places with the existing approach, there is I think there is urgency. We need time to balance the pros and cons.
And as I think the industry knows that we have commissioned the Commission on Elderly Services to to study a new mode for delivery of services for the elderly. And the findings or the result will be due in a couple of years' time. So we like to have the views of the panel so that we can decide how to deal with the services for these 77,000 odd places. Right, you ask us to deal with this as quickly as possible. So you have vetoed their proposals. I think we are asking you to separate the treatment of the existing 5,600 places and the new 1,500 places. We have a few motions that will be dealt with later. And this morning, there's the Alliance for the Concern of HCCS. They are users, and they want the current service operators to continue to provide the services. So please consider this. All right, members, 3 minutes each. Dr. Helena Wong. Thank you. I've also met with some of the deputations, and I understand the issues raised just now. I hope that the SWD and Welfare and Labor Bureau, Labor and Welfare Bureau, do not consider these people as being cases and statistics, and how you can allocate 7,000 places fairly, because you have gone against the principles of providing people-based services. You may say that you will call tenders again every few years to make it transparent and fair, as if you were the referee of a football game. And it started as a pilot scheme. Now it is regularized, and we do believe that we must enhance support for elders staying at home and in the community. We want both the quality and quantity to be upheld. It's good that a few operators have served for a few contracts, and they have established a rapport with elders in the community. And this is valuable. You can try to take off an elderly person. You want to bathe him. You will see whether he will agree. It would take you more than 1 hour before he's willing to surrender. Even if you remove his clothes, he may refuse to be handled. And sometimes family members may have difficulties in handling an elder, and when he is very cooperative, when there is a carer from EHCCS, I'm sure the operators will not refuse the administration if it wants to review and check their services. You should not end all contracts after 3 years and carry out another competitive bidding, because this will destroy all the experience and talent they have accumulated in the past 3 years, because you are not being fair and respectful to the workers as well as the elders. If you do this, perhaps all universities or school or sponsoring bodies should have should all, and including the doctors, professors should be sacked, and then you conduct a fresh recruitment globally after 3 years. Can you do that? Of course not, because the professors, the doctors have accumulated experience in the service. So if their services are acceptable, you should not ask them to go after 3 years. If there is continuity in the education sector and medical and healthcare sector, why should you do this to the social welfare sector? Okay, I'm sure other colleagues will ask similar questions. Mr. Tang Ka-piu, thank you. The deputations have told us in great detail the reasons and also the need for service stability. 24 units will be retendered, involving 7,000 cases. Are you sure that you'll be able to employ 1,000 carers under the EHCSS? Well, many carers live in the same community, and they have established relationship with the elders. Now, if they only work for money, they might have already left their posts long ago, because they are eager to serve these elders, and they work near their homes, and they have established a relationship with the elders. Now, if you break this up, are you sure that all frontline posts can be filled? I'm not confident. Otherwise, you won't have convinced us, or you won't be lobbying us to import labor for care of elderly. So what you're going to do is risky. Secondly, if we do not do a good job in community care, then all the elders will go for our CHEs. The unit cost is 14,000 per month, and even for bought place, the unit cost is 9,000. But for EHCCS, the average unit cost was only 3,800. Now 600 or 6,000 odd. I don't know whether your workers have been had their pay adjusted according to inflation. I think they have done an excellent job in terms of cost effectiveness. Well, the service started in 2005. You have not really retender the services once every 3 years, and yet the operators have done an excellent job within the budget they are given. I fail to see why you're going to do this. Well, please allow time for the administration to reply. P.S. Well, the existing 5,600 places. Well, how we are going to deal with this? We have communicated with the industry, and I think there are two options. Either they will be taken together with the 1,500 places, so that will be 7,100 places for allocation. Or second, we alter the contract or extend the contract by a few years. Well, both options have their pros and cons. No, P.S. The biggest merit, or the best one, is the third option offered by them, and that is to provide this service under the lump sum grant. Well, the 5,600 places is regularized. If we want to cover it under lump sum grant, it will take us longer to consider the feasibility, and we have to wait for the proposal from the Elderly Commission first. We've only got a few months left, and we've explained to the industry that given the time frame, we can only consider extending the contracts. And we've discussed with the HKCSS, and we asked them whether they will allow us to try this approach. If yes, we have to consult internally first, because it is a special way of dealing with this matter. Dr. Fernando Zhang. Thank you, Chairman. This service has been introduced for 13 years already, and they want it to be changed to the lump sum grant. I think they have been asking that for 10 years, because the service was regularized in 2005. It is already 2014. 9 years have elapsed. Since the services are now regularized, why do you have to use this contract bidding arrangement, giving short-term contracts? This is we talk about very personal services, escort to medical follow-ups, bathing, and giving meals, so on and so forth. Dr. Wong has explained to you that the relationship between the frontline worker and the elder is very important. Dr. Helena Wong has not received any social welfare training, and yet she knows. And for the 4 members from the administrations, at least 2 were from the social welfare faculty. So you should remind policy officers, you have to understand that this is very people-based service. You should not regard our elders as commodities. Please don't think that it's just a meal delivery and it doesn't matter who does the delivery. You don't really understand the nature of the service. Ms. Tam said that the administration could consider extending the contracts. If yes, do so. And even after that is done, our position is clear. These services will always be needed, and because of our aging population, the demand for such services would only increase. So staff stability and service stability are of utmost importance. So I hope you can use a stable funding arrangement. We understand that initially you want to be fair and reasonable, and you want different organizations to have a chance to be involved. But they have already been granted the contracts. They have shown you that they could do it. They have accumulated experience. They have a staff to perform the service, and I think you will disrupt the order of service if you have contract bidding again. Well, we have got a motion for you. It is now incorporated into the Deputy Chairman's motion. So please just extend the contracts and then plan how you can turn that into a stable mechanism.
Mr. Frederick Fung. My view is similar to the other members, but I hope the government can understand what we think. This approach is it's very confusing, and some service providers have been in operation for more than 10 years. But why are they in operation for so long if there's a 3-year review, and yet you have allowed them to continue to provide services? And I fully agree that the bond with elders is very important. My third point is if you have a review every 3 years and you change all the service providers, you will limit the long-term planning of the constitutions or the service providers. It's very hard for them to build, to develop their work and connections with the elders. If there's a review every 3 years, they cannot think so far ahead. Their focus is to ensure survival, or that they will still be here 1 year later. You are not allowing them to think on the long-term basis. So I disagree with this practice. Right now, you are saying that you are considering the matter in front of different commissions or panels. This is very obvious. You don't need to do any review. You have to change it immediately. You should be consistent with your previous decisions. You should abandon the bidding mechanism. If you cannot have an immediate change, then you should do it very soon still. For new projects, you can choose to whatever way you want, but for existing service providers, you should retain the existing practice. So you should abandon the bidding approach. Do you want her, the secretary to respond? No. I just want her to listen to what I say. Bidding is bidding is about money. It's about the lowest bid. well, all the bids are similar anyway. So you're not trying to save costs with this bidding mechanism. So what's the point of using this approach? You are not tackling the core of the problem. You are using a wrong approach. Mr. Frankie. Thank you, Chairman. I'm not from the social welfare sector, but I have seen the deputations, some of the deputations did today. I agree with the members that building a bond with the elders is important. It's important to build a long-term relationship before the government makes its choice. I don't agree that the service providers should be here forever. There must be a review mechanism because some providers might do better than others. I also agree that it's not the bidding mechanism. It's not about the lowest bid or money. A lot of the so-called additional services by the states are very limited and they die down very soon. So can we stipulate these services more clearly under the contracts? And there should be a review mechanism, and we have to know the response of the service use of the users or the elders. We have to phase out unsatisfactory providers, but I understand that if we are to have a review every 3 years, the impacts are huge, and I hope the services can be extended for at least one contract term. Can we review the current mechanism? Maybe we won't have a bidding mechanism, but we can have some sort of periodic review to decide whether we need to change the operators. Permanent Secretary, as Mr. Yik said, we need time to review, to conduct a long-term review of the services. From now till February next year, we have to deal with 7,100 places, and we don't have enough time to deal with it. So we want to look at the report of the Elderly Commission to see which way we should go. We would listen to the suggestions of Mr. Yik, and many members mentioned the approach of contract extension. I did not rule out such possibility when we discussed with the trade, but we hope to receive a clearer message because some NGOs are service providers and some NGOs want to provide services. And when I discussed the issue with Crystal and her colleagues last time, I hope the trade can send us a clearer message on the direction we should go. We know time is very tight. Does anyone want to respond to the PS? I agree with the chairman that we want to distinguish between the two situations. The 7,100 places and 1,500 places are two different cases. We accept the new approach as mentioned by Fernando Chang, and we also want to retain the existing relationship with collaboration with service providers. We propose extending the service by 2 years during this transitional period to the lump sum grants. The elders really treasure the relationship with the existing providers, and I think this should be respected. And the new service providers can bid for the 1,500 new places. And in light of population aging, we should provide more support for the district community centers. So the new service providers would be able to bid for the services. So my suggestion is not to tackle those 7,100 places altogether at the same time. As I mentioned in March, we considered having two different approaches for the 7,100 places and 1,500 places. As I mentioned, people don't oppose to using the bidding mechanism for those 1,500 places. The problem is for the 7,100 places, which approach should we use? Should we use the lump sum grants or the bidding mechanism? We have to look at the issue. We have to discuss the issue internally. We have legal considerations because contracts are involved. So we have to look at terms in the contracts. If this is a clear message, we would tackle the issue as soon as possible. We have papers to deal with, so hopefully the issue can be tackled within a month. So we can have further discussions on this basis within 1 month, right? Vice Chairman. Yes, we have the conclusion today, and the conclusion is that we shouldn't have a review every 3 years. We shouldn't have a bidding mechanism for elderly care services. This is very clear. The problem is, how do we tackle the issues? We haven't had very detailed discussions today on the mode of subvention. We should have a bidding mechanism. The government was wrong from day one. I understand that we need to give them time to transition to a new mode of subvention. These 7,000 places should not be tackled by bidding. It should be handled under the lump sum grants. But can this happen overnight? I'm very skeptical. If you said, yes, it's possible, then it's wonderful. But the fact is, you cannot, and we need to buy time. So let's not do anything with the 5,600 places. For the 1,500 new places, you can use the new approach. But 2 or 3 years later, all the places should be filed under the lump sum grants. So you cannot say that, let's have a 2-year extension and then have another bidding afterwards. I don't think this will be acceptable by the trade. So right now, the 2-year extension is only done on an administrative basis. And 2 years later, the competitive bidding approach should be transitioned to the lump sum grant approach. No matter which approach you take in the future, the decision the coming February should take salary adjustment into consideration. Right now, for your existing contracts, this is not considered, and the service providers have to bear the rising costs. So no matter which approach you take, salaries adjustment must be taken into account in the contracts. So otherwise, as Mr. Tang said, a case which was worth $3,600 should be worth more in the future. So please take note. The permanent secretary, please. As the chairman said, we have discussed the issue many times in the past. Going forward, when we need time to tackle the funding mode for these conventions, having looked at with the results from the Commission of Elderly Services, we can have further discussions. How do we tackle the 7,100 places? We've heard the comments of members and the trade. we are willing to split these places under 2 new approaches. For those 5,600 places, can we extend their contracts by 2 or 3 years? We will discuss this internally further. The extension shouldn't be too short. If it's only a 2-year extension, it might be unfair to certain providers, but the extension cannot go over 3 years. So there are a lot of details we have to think about. And for salaries adjustment, we will seek the DOJ for their views. We have to honor the spirit of the contracts, but we will certainly forward such views to the DOJ so that they can give us comments from a legal point of view. Any comments from the deputations? If the deputations are very clear, I have a question myself. Permanent Secretary, for the 5,600 places, you will give us an answer within a month, right? Mr. Yik also said that this issue is very important. If different members have a consensus of providing continual services for the elders, unless you disagree, this issue is very important. For those 15 or 1,600 places, this is only temporary. If in the future we should have a single approach to tackle all the places. Trust is very important in family care services, but I don't oppose an assessment mechanism. But the premise is that we shouldn't have a bidding mechanism anymore. For salaries adjustment, you have to tackle the issue with the DOJ. For new contracts, they should be paid. The service providers should be paid reasonably. So please discuss the issue with the Department of Justice. We can certainly find a way out. So that's all for my part. I'm just trying to sum up everyone's comments. Any other comments from members? If not, we'll have more users in the next meeting. They will be similar to the users today. They don't prefer a bundled approach, and I'm sure most service providers would agree. Let's vote on Mr. Tang Ka-piu's motion. I'll read it out.
This panel urges the administration to, without affecting the service operators and users, extend the contracts of the current 150,000 NHCCS places, and for the remaining 1,500 places, they could be awarded under the current mechanism. And there should be a change in the future contract awarding mode, so that these 7,100 places can be included in the lump sum grant to ensure the quality of service and to ensure job stability for the over 1,000 workers. Now, we say that it is 7,100 places. Now, I think the administration should also consider the cost involved, the cost of the operators involved. All right, do we have to take a vote? Those who are in support of this motion, hands up, please. So unanimously passed. P.S. So you've heard both the views of deputations and also members of different political parties. So please address this issue expeditiously. Mr. Tang Ka-piu and Dr. Fernando Cheung, I think you still have questions. I want the unit cost starting from 2001. The unit costs of service provision starting from 2001. Okay, Mr. Tang Ka-piu, assuming that we accept that the contracts be extended for the current 24 teams. And when they consider new resources, you should consider why the money for 2003-04 was more than what is offered now. All right. Please provide the information as requested by Dr. Fernando Cheung. All right, we have heard your views. We will very carefully consider how these 5,600 places will be allocated. And we understand that the treatment is subject to the contractual restrictions. We will discuss with the DOJ to see what can be done under the current contract terms. We will also seek the approval from the relevant bureau. What I can promise to do is to explore the feasibility, because I don't really have the final say. But I do understand that this is a pressing matter, and we will try to settle it within this month. P.S. I do understand your difficulties, but I think you see that the panel is unanimous. People with different convictions or philosophies would want you to put the welfare of the elderly users first. And I think users have also reflected their view to you. So please reflect our views very accurately to the relevant bureau and department. Thank you very much for your attendance. We're going to end here, but let me stress that we're going to have a special meeting very soon. We'll let you know the date to discuss family support in the light of recent family domestic tragedies. And then on the 14th of July, we'll extend our meeting for half an hour, because users of EHCCS would like to tell us their views. I wanted to give them 15 minutes today, but they said that was not sufficient. So another half hour at the next meeting. Thank you very much. The meeting adjourned.